Sorry, I was at Unite a few weeks ago. I repurposed my talk. Hope you don't mind.
Scandal.
Just quick questions. Is anybody a football fan? It's good. A lot more people here than in Canada. Has anybody played Quick Hit? Nice.
We should have had a hockey game.
Does anybody play Madden?
Right.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Awesome. And just so I know, who here is like an engineering type person? Who here is like an art type person? A lot. Okay. Who here is like a biz type person? So, first question. What is Quick Hit? We're a browser-based, free-to-play game. Free-to-play, we're monetized by ads and by virtual goods. We're a coaching strategy game. So what does that mean? That means that you do coaching decisions. So you call plays, and you do personnel level decisions. You decide when you want to call a timeout. The goal is to make a game which is very high quality, but also very accessible. Most of the people at the company do have console backgrounds, and a lot of us have been making games for a long time. There are a lot of casual football fans out there who don't necessarily want to drop $60 each year on Madden, don't have a high-end video game console, or who don't even consider themselves gamers, but they're on the web. We serve about 70,000 games a day. On a good day, we'll actually go a little bit higher. On a bad day, we'll go significantly less. Considering Thanksgiving just ended and everybody played a lot of video games online over the holiday, it was actually significantly above that. One of the interesting technical things about what we're doing is we've heavily integrated Flash. So I'll go into more details both about why we did that and about how it works in the game. The final thing is we are a licensed NFL product. I'm sure a lot of people here are aware that a few years ago Electronic Arts signed an exclusive license with the NFL and the NFL Players Association. So we're basically the first NFL video game that's not Madden in 6 years. A few things I'm going to talk more about development issues centering on Unity. I'm not going to focus on other things like design or how we sign up distribution partners. I can't really share business details or talk about the approvals process, but if anybody's made a licensed game, it's significant. Also, we used Unity 2.6. Unity 3 came out right before the start of the football season. Obviously, when you're making a football game, that's your drop-dead deadline, and we didn't want to take the risk with upgrading a major version, right at the last minute. I'm sure our QA department agrees with that. And Elliot vindicated me by saying he actually was forced to do something like that. So yeah, that wasn't good. A bit about me. At Quick Hit, I've been making console games for a long, long time. A few years ago, there were these free-to-play social games that started occurring. Obviously, we're all familiar with Zynga right now, but even back then, there were companies like Tencent that were clearing more than $1 billion in revenue each year. So I jumped on the bandwagon. I'm going to talk a bit about how we developed the game. So, a few Unity-specific things. We did everything in C#. I know there's a whole lot of, it seems like religious wars over whether you do this or JavaScript or Vue. Honestly, we didn't see the point of using something like JavaScript. We didn't really experiment with Vue too much. C# just seemed great, and it's the closest to what people already knew. Our artists use 3D Studio Max. We use Perforce for version control. We love Perforce. I've used Perforce for years. I think there's the whole Perforce subversion religious war, which we didn't really get into. Obviously, for Unity, there's also Asset Server. Why did we use Unity Asset Server. Well, this is just one, the Unity client itself is just one component of many different tiers of the system. And the last thing we wanted to do is use Perforce for our server code and our web code, and then have a whole separate version control system for just one client. Obviously, that would be path to madness. The server itself is something we wrote in Java. I know there's a whole bunch of game server middleware solutions out there. Because our game itself is actually simulated on the server, and the client is basically a thin client. Unless somebody had a football simulation middleware server out there, it's nothing we really could use. The website itself, it's actually not a LAMP server. It uses Linux, Apache, MySQL, and something called Groovy instead of PHP. So why do we have Unity and Flash? So we started off as just a Flash game, and you can see this is what the Flash client looks like. It doesn't look that bad. It actually looks pretty good. But this is what the Unity client looks like. It's gorgeous. So our goal was obviously a massive, successful game that lots of people love. Isn't that all our goals? So what we really wanted our real suspicion was that a high-end client would perform better. It would resonate better with the market. It would have higher perceived value with our players, and ultimately, they'd spend more on microtransactions. Or would they? Would they play more games? Would they stay a user longer? So, first thing is, a Unity game can be gorgeous. Now, is it as gorgeous as Call of Duty on a tricked-out PC? No, it's not. But to a casual mainstream user who doesn't necessarily have an HD TV hooked up to his Xbox 360 or the latest NVIDIA graphics card, it looks pretty good. And you can play. What are the benefits of Flash? Well, in one word, it's ubiquitous. And that's really important because when you're making a web game, ultimately, anybody who's worked on a website is used to think about the conversion funnel where, you get traffic, you get people through the door, and, you've got many different steps, and at the end of the final step, they do something that monetizes on your site. And every one of those steps, you lose some people. Every single person who lands on our site has Flash installed, and every single one of those people can play the Flash version of the game. We get most of our traffic from big casual game sites, or I'm sure most people have heard of me, like for addicting games, or at least anybody in the web game space. We noticed that about 15% of our visitors have Unity already installed.
1.5 or 5.0?
1.5. So that's actually not too bad. It's very far from Flash. We've done experiments where we've seen if we don't give somebody the option of playing in Flash, we just force them to install the plugin. How many people do we lose? And we actually find it's about 50%. People just don't want to install the plugin, even with Unity's fairly streamlined install process. So, a bit about how the game works. There's a game server.
Do you track whether or not they even click to do the install, or do you just not know where in that process you lose them?
We don't know. So one thing we've done a bad job at as web game developers, because we've all been console developers for so long, is just all the metrics that we need to gather. And this is something which over the past year we've learned the hard way. We talk to a lot of people at web companies who ask very simple sounding questions like that.
What kind of A/B testing are you doing?
Exactly. A/B testing is something now we do and we love. But I think one problem with the overly metrics driven approach is that you can forget the fact that you're making a game, and that game quality is not really a metric that you can measure. The only metric it really affects perhaps is retention. And it's not like you do all these minute quality improvements and then instantly your retention improves. It's a lagging indicator. So the architecture of the game, essentially there's a game server. And it's a trusted server, and the clients aren't really trusted at all. So it sounds really obvious that we have a single protocol which talks to both clients. The problem is both of these clients are radically different. So it's kind of hard to design a protocol that can effectively serve the game for both of them. While we also have, there's certain information that only the Unity client has to have. The Flash client doesn't need to know where to pan the camera. So what happens is we have the client send commands up to the game server. Most of these commands are just what play you called. And then the game server sends back an RBAR, a result set. That's online game terminology. Essentially, the result set is just for each frame of the simulation, which animation each player is in. And it also has a bunch of events, so that when somebody catches the ball, we can play a catch sound. When somebody goes into the end zone and scores a touchdown, we can have a notification that says touchdown. There are some real-time elements that if somebody wants to hack our clients, they could theoretically hack. The main one being that there's a play clock, so you only have, just like in the real NFL, where you get a delay of game if you don't hike the ball soon enough. Same thing happens in quick hit football. All you could really hack it for is to get more time to call a play. That's not really a high value added thing to hack into our game. So the result set itself is actually an XML file, and these XML files are typically around 2 megs. They can get up to 6 megs for a really long play, like a kickoff. Now, why is it so large? We haven't really felt the need to optimize that because XML compresses a lot. Because there's so much repeated information, every frame has the same tags. It compresses down to just a few hundred K. It's kind of a long-term tech debt issue for us that we actually want to go through and binary pack this, but right now it's not a real pressing issue. So, as I said before, the result set has, where in each animation each player is, but that brings up kind of a key problem, which is, we've got all these Unity animations, which obviously come out of Max, and we've got this Flash client, which obviously isn't, I'm not aware of a Max importer for Flash. Is anyone? So how do we make this work? I'll get to that in a bit. So a huge issue for any web game is obviously load. The longer time you spend loading, the more abandonment you get. People just give up your game. So a few things that sound like common sense, except for the fact that it took us a long time to discover these things. First of all, obviously provide feedback while you're loading so that people know how much more time they have to spend. You'd be surprised how many games, even nowadays, I play on the web where even if it has a progress meter, it'll stop for a second or for a minute at 30%. That's bad. Obviously, you should only load the critical assets before you're in the game. You'll actually notice in our game if one of the panels in the lower corner is the player information you have. So you click on a player and it says, this is his name, this is his position, these are his statistics, and then there's a picture of his face. Obviously, we don't load all those pictures before going into the game because you don't need those to play, so we actually have bug reports on our forums of people saying that the portraits don't display until they've been